It's Wednesday, June 3rd. In the headlines, taxi fare hike takes effect. Government boosts defenses amid cyber attack surges. In business news, Jamaicans continue to reject digital currencies. Regionally, Barbados moves toward offshore oil and gas exploration. And in sports, reggae girls begin preparations for Panama friendlies. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaica is facing an unprecedented surge in cyber threats, with more than 49 million cyber attack attempts recorded last year alone. Minister without portfolio with responsibility for science, technology and special projects, Dr. Andrew Wheatley, says the government is responding with stronger laws, new cybersecurity standards. He provided the update during his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament. The government has taken a major step in strengthening Jamaica's digital defenses with the passage of the Cybercrimes Amendment Act 2026. Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley says the updated legislation reflects the realities of a rapidly evolving digital landscape, including the rise of artificial intelligence, deep fakes, and online exploitation.
The Cybercrimes Amendment Act 2026 answers all these realities. It modernizes definitions, introduces new offenses, strengthens investigative powers, and fully aligns Jamaica's legislative framework with our international commitments. Parliament has acted. The law has been updated, and the digital environment our citizens navigate every day is more secure because of it.
But even with stronger legislation in place, the minister says Jamaica remains under sustained cyber threat. According to Dr. Wheatley, cyber attack attempts have increased dramatically over the last 3 years, with critical government systems among the targets.
Jamaica is under active, escalating cyber attack. In 2025 alone, there were more than 49 million cyber attack attempts in Jamaica, up from 12 million in 2022. I repeat, in 2025 alone, there were more than 49 million cyber attack attempts in Jamaica, up from 12 million in 2022. Critical government systems and institutions have been targeted and breached. A data breach on a major government digital platform exposed the personal and information of hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans. These are not warnings, these are results.
Dr. Wheatley also warned that emerging technologies are creating new cybersecurity risks.
Artificial intelligence is now being weaponized by attackers. Supply chain compromise has become the primary concern of large organizations globally. Critical information infrastructure protection has moved from aspiration to operational necessity. And Madam Speaker, Hurricane Melissa reminded us that cybersecurity and physical resilience are not separate disciplines, they are one. Yes.
Meanwhile, Jamaica's current national cybersecurity strategy expires this year. Dr. Wheatley says a third national strategy is now being developed to provide stronger governance and greater institutional capacity.
The 2026 strategy, Madam Speaker, will give us the institutional permanence, the legislative teeth, and the operational scale that the previous two strategies pointed towards. Jamaica, Madam Speaker, will not simply refresh a document. Jamaica will build the next generation of its national cybersecurity posture.
The minister says the next phase of Jamaica's cybersecurity strategy will be anchored by a permanent National Cybersecurity Directorate and will focus on stronger governance, improved coordination, and greater national resilience against cyber threats. The long-awaited public transport fare adjustment took effect on Tuesday, June 2. The increase, announced by Transport Minister Darrell Vaz, came months after lobbying by taxi operators and will be implemented in 2 phases. An initial 8% increase in public passenger vehicle fares took effect on Tuesday, while the remaining 8% is scheduled for July.
Following the July adjustments, the St. Anne's Bay to Ocherius route taxi fare will increase from $220 to $240, while the Eltham Park to Spanish Town fare would rise from $170 to $190. The rural stagecarriage fare between Ocherius and Kingston would increase from $610 to $660, and Mandeville to Mayfair fare would move Mandeville to Maypen fare would move from $310 to $330. Let me underscore that the decision was made with careful consideration and extensive dialogue.
Minister Vaz is warning against overcharging.
What I don't want is those persons that had raised their fares arbitrarily and illegally already to now do another fare increase on this government announced increase. If you do so, you are going to feel the brunt of the law.
He adds that discussions are ongoing about concessions for PPV operators on the toll roads.
It's still pursuing and lobbying with the toll authority and the concessionaires for a special concession price for the highways. As we recognize that the toll expenses represent operational costs, especially for those providing long distance and inter-parish services.
President of the advocacy group Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services, Edgerton Newman, says operators would have preferred the full 16% increase to be implemented at once. Nonetheless, he said members had accepted Cabinet's decision. The government is expanding science-based learning in Jamaica's early childhood sector through the national rollout of the Nurturing Early Scientific Thinking program, the NEST program. Minister without portfolio with responsibility for science, technology and special projects, Dr. Andrew Wheatley says the initiative aims to foster curiosity, innovation and problem-solving skills among young learners, with 500 institutions set to benefit by the end of next year. Danita Rodney has more in this report.
While giving his contribution to the sectoral debates, Dr. Wheatley says the government is moving ahead with the national rollout of NEST after a successful pilot involving 25 early childhood institutions.
Madam Speaker, 25 educators were trained through a training of trainers model delivered by Early Childhood Commission's officers, with mentorship support provided through the Association of Science Teachers of Jamaica. The evaluation, Madam Speaker, is positive. The evidence base is built. The scale-up plan is ready. Madam Speaker, we are now rolling out NEST nationally. The plan targets 500 early childhood institutions across all 7 education regions and all 14 parishes to be reached by the end of 2026.
Dr. Wheatley says the program is designed to nurture critical thinking and creativity from an early age.
It works by building the capacity of educators in early childhood institutions to deliver play-based science experiences, supported by STEM activity book and hands-on STEM kits designed specifically for the early childhood context.
The minister also highlighted the role of key development partners in advancing Jamaica's science, technology, and innovation agenda.
Madam Speaker, the Inter-American Development Bank has been a steadfast partner in Jamaica's development journey, and its engagement with this portfolio has deepened significantly as we have developed the National ST&I Strategic Plan and the House of Innovation Framework. I would also like to mention the Development Bank of Jamaica, who has equally been a consistent champion of the innovation ecosystem, providing financing pathways for entrepreneurs, MSMEs, and startups that translate research into commercial reality.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Danita Rodney.
Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision-making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Richard Biles, is expressing major disappointment with the slow adoption of the digital currency, JAMDEX. JAMDEX was introduced as part of a broader push to modernize payments and financial access across Jamaica. But despite early momentum and continued promotion, the currency has struggled to become a routine feature in how people pay and get paid in Jamaica. Cash still dominates large parts of the informal economy, and I quote, "We continue to knock at the door of the commercial banks to get their point-of-sale machines retrofitted. And I would note that as a disappointment that it has taken us years to get the banks to make that transition," end quote, lamented Mr. Biles, who was speaking at the BOJ's recently held quarterly press briefing. President of the Jamaica Coffee Exporters Association and Managing Director of the Mavis Bank Coffee Factory, Dr. Norman Grant, is warning that the coffee industry faces massive job losses unless urgent government support is provided. Speaking to RJR News, Dr. Grant said coffee production is projected to fall to a 35-year low of just 155,000 boxes this year, down from 225,000 boxes in 2024 and 288,000 boxes in 2023. He said the decline has already resulted in losses of some $1.5 billion for the industry's 5,000 farmers. According to Dr. Grant, that reduction has translated into an additional $2.5 billion in losses for coffee farmers. He has again called for the government to provide the $350 million annually requested under the crop rotation and expansion program, which he says the industry has been seeking for the last 5 years. For the trading period of June 2, 2026, the most actively traded securities were One-on-One Educational Services Limited with 129,716,413 units, representing 69.89% of market sales activity. Kentire Holdings Jamaica Limited with 38,403,075 units, representing 20.69% of market sales activity. Wigton Energy Limited with 3,642,892 units, representing 1.96% of market sales activity. Investor activity remained concentrated in education, distribution, and solar energy plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for June 2, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. The US dollar had trading margins reflecting steady liquidity, with the US selling at $157.30 and buying at $158.78. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gains supported by $2.36 transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $115.51 and was bought for $113.15. For the British pound, continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities of $8.43 in profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $214.84 and was bought for $206.41. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, over the next 90 days, small business owners can create a personal credit roadshow that positions their business for growth, resilience, and access to multiple funding channels. We previously discussed the documents you should gather for the first 30 days of the Credit Roadshow. Now let's focus on the next 30 days of the 90-day roadshow. The second month is your relationship building phase. Do not limit yourself to one institution. Schedule meetings with several categories of financiers. Banks remain important partners for working capital, equipment financing, commercial mortgages, expansion loans, business overdrafts. Even if approval does not happen immediately, the relationship matters. Now, credit unions can sometimes offer more personalized engagement, competitive lending terms, SME-focused process, relationship-based decision-making. Many entrepreneurs overlook this category. They should not. These institutions offer understanding to emerging and smaller enterprises. Small business growth is rarely funded through luck. It is usually funded through preparation, relationships, and credibility. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital markets and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, Barbados is moving to unlock what could be one of the most significant economic opportunities in its history. The government has launched its 2026 Offshore direct negotiations process, inviting energy companies to bid for exploration rights in 19 offshore blocks believed to hold substantial oil and natural gas reserves. Officials say the initiative could strengthen energy security, reduce fuel import costs, and generate billions of dollars in future revenue. The details from this CBC News report.
Hidden in Barbados's massive marine space are billions of dollars worth of oil and natural gas, potentially a game changer for the economy. Through the launch of the Barbados 2026 Offshore direct negotiations, the island is seeking to exploit those resources. It intends to license up to 19 available blocks across highly prospective areas of our shelf and ultra-deep water acreage. Acting Prime Minister Simmons says the pre-qualification process commenced June 1st and will be governed by the Offshore Petroleum Act Cap 282A as amended.
We have done seismic surveys, two-dimensional seismic surveys and three-dimensional seismic surveys. And they would suggest to us that we have the potential of having perhaps as many as 13 or more billion barrels of potential oil, and then 40 plus trillion meters of cubic feet, of natural gas.
When asked how much money in oil and natural gas is within these 19 blocks, the acting Prime Minister responded in this way.
It's based on global oil prices, but certainly it would run into billions of dollars. There's no question about that. And obviously, the more protracted events, such as the war, that is the crisis now in the Gulf, or the war with the Ukraine and so on, the more the world has these types of difficulties, then the greater the value of oil and gas.
He says Barbados welcomes engagement with experienced and responsible energy companies that are committed to technical excellence, environmental stewardship, and regulatory transparency.
So we want to have companies that are partnering with us that have proven over their recent work that they are in the oil and gas sector, yes, but they are also methane managers, that they are effectively good stewards of the environment, that they are conscious of the climate challenges, and that their capacity is such that they can be aligned to what Barbados' objectives are more holistically.
On average, Barbados pays approximately $400 million to import fossil fuels. That figure climbed to $1.2 billion within the first 2 years of the Russia-Ukraine war.
If we are able to find natural gas, we are able then to use that gas as a bridging fuel, which will enable for us to be able to look after our own natural gas resources, our own natural gas demands, without having to pay the heavy price of importing it. And our primary interest really is in natural gas. Equally, for those who have a concern about oil, we are aware that for perhaps the foreseeable next 30 years at least, the rest of the world, well into the 2050s, is continuing to expect that they will be reliant to some extent on oil.
The Barbados National Energy Company Limited, which has no experience in offshore oil and gas production, is also set to benefit from the negotiations.
It makes perfect sense for the National Energy Company now to be in a position, let us say 10, 15 years down the road, to be doing in one of the blocks which we have offshore, those things that we must now ask Shell or Exxon or whoever else to come into the country in order to do.
Director of Natural Resources in the Ministry of Energy, Jamar White, says the legal, technical, safety and environment capacities, health, financial and standards of offshore drilling companies will be heavily scrutinized.
Those criteria will help to basically address and assess any concerns that we would have and ensure that only the best, most qualified and companies with top-tier records are able to advance to the negotiation stage.
Companies around the world have until September 1st to submit their pre-qualification documents. And by early next year, Barbadians should know which companies have been chosen to start exploration offshore Barbados. Anesta Henry, CBC News.
The 2026 Atlantic hurricane season is officially underway, and regional leaders are urging citizens not to let forecasts of a quieter season breed complacency. In St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew met with disaster management officials and key stakeholders to review the country's preparedness measures, while regional disaster agencies are reinforcing the importance of readiness as the Caribbean enters another hurricane season.
The 2026 Atlantic hurricane season is officially active. Just hours before, St. Kitts and Nevis's Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, in his capacity as Minister of National Security, met with the National Disaster Committee and other stakeholders at the headquarters of the National Disaster Management Agency, NEMA. In the opening session of the meeting, the Prime Minister stated the following, quote, "When a disaster hits, it affects everyone, and so we need to be ready. We should be ready to respond swiftly, protect lives and property, and ensure that our communities can recover as quickly as possible. Preparedness is not the responsibility of one agency alone. It requires the commitment and cooperation of all of us," end quote. Presentations on the hurricane season were made by Deputy National Disaster Coordinator at NEMA, Julian Ratshaw, and Meteorological Officer Daniel Dixon. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, marked the start with a recently held press conference at which Executive Director Elizabeth Riley reminded member countries to be prepared.
Today we are marking the start of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season, which begins on June 1 of this year. At CDEMA, our work is ultimately about people, the safety of our families, the security of our communities, the protection of livelihoods, and the resilience of our participating states. Every plan we develop, every exercise we conduct, and every partnership that we pursue is directed towards saving lives and reducing losses when hazards occur. The Atlantic hurricane season officially runs from June 1 to November 30, but we in the Caribbean know that readiness cannot be confined to those dates, as we experience many types of hazards throughout the year. The 2026 hurricane season comes at a time when the Caribbean continues to face complex risks from hazards. But we also enter the season with experience, lessons learned, partnerships, and a renewed commitment to readiness. Over the years, our region has demonstrated remarkable strength and solidarity in responding to the impacts of hazards. Our long-standing regional commitment to solidarity is even more important at this time, given geopolitical shifts and the uncertainties associated with it. We have also seen firsthand the importance of preparedness, coordination, and timely action, which have continued to shape our commitment to strengthening regional cooperation, regional self-reliance, and supporting our participating states in reducing disaster risks, improving readiness and response capacities.
According to the U.S.-based National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the Atlantic hurricane season that runs from June 1st to November 30th is expected to be below normal due to a variety of atmospheric conditions that will hamper hurricane formation. To date, NOAA predictions suggest a 35% chance of a near-normal season, a 10% chance of an above-normal season, and a 55% chance of a below-normal season. However, 8 to 14 named storms are forecasted at this point for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. Glenn Bart reporting for Television Caribbean, TVC Channel 40.
In sports, we spotlight football. Herbert Busby says he is encouraged by the early performances of the Jamaica women's national football team after the squad opened training camp ahead of international friendlies against Panama women's national football team. The Reggae Girls held their first training session on Tuesday as preparations continue for the matches set for June 5 and June 8 in Panama City. Busby described the opening session as energetic and competitive, adding that the players showed strong enthusiasm despite traveling from various parts of the world. The matches are part of Jamaica's build-up to the 2026 CONCACAF Women's Championship and their qualifier against Costa Rica women's national football team later this year. The Pan American Health Organization is urging countries across the Americas to strengthen measles surveillance and vaccination efforts ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup and other major international events. In an epidemiological alert issued May 29, PAHO warned that increasing measles outbreaks and heightened international travel could increase the risk of disease spreading during large gatherings. The organization is encouraging countries to improve surveillance systems, intensify active case finding, and review vaccination coverage to identify high-risk areas and strengthen preventative measures. PAHO is also advising travelers aged 6 months and older who cannot confirm full vaccination or immunity to receive a measles rubella vaccine at least 2 weeks before traveling to affected areas. Health officials are further encouraging travelers to familiarize themselves with symptoms of measles and rubella, including fever, rash, cough, runny nose, conjunctivitis, and swollen lymph nodes. And that's the news on PBCJ. Pleasant viewing.